Hey guys, how are you? Today I'm here with one of the most important artists to independent comics. He, ladies and gentlemen, is co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a huge Jack Kirby's fan. He is Kevin Eastman. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. It's so nice to be here with you today. This is really fun.
It's really fun to meet you, and I have a gorgeous pleasure. So, sir, for start, how is to you a fan of comics to see the editions of the comics you've made around the whole world?
I, I think seeing editions of the comics that I made show up in other languages, other places, is probably the most flattering thing ever. Because, when you think it was such a crazy idea that only like crazy Americans would get it.
Yeah,
But apparently there's crazy people that love turtles all over the world.
yeah,
So it's very flattering when not only it's translated in other languages, but other people from other countries fall in love and embrace the idea of the turtles. It's very heartwarming to me.
I think that everyone who has a turtle or who had a turtle take a name of, I don't know, Donatello, because Donatello is my favorite one. So probably my turtle would have this name. So and you started making turtles being just another comic book fan, right? But
Yep.
they've taken a huge place in pop culture over the years. And uh okay, a part of the comics around the world, but what's the coolest thing you've seen people doing with your characters? It was games, TV series.
That's a good question because it's so fun to see. When we did the original comic book,
Yeah,
that to me was so satisfying in so many ways because that's all I wanted to do since I was very little was to create and write and draw my own stories, and then to be able to do that with Peter was already a dream come true.
yeah,
Um, so when you see it translated into cartoons where your little pictures now are moving around on the TV. It's like,
yeah,
oh, this is crazy. And then when you see them as toys, when you can, pick them up and hold them and play with them as a
yeah.
toy, it took me back to my childhood because it was very exciting. And then my favorite turtle movie, as I love movies, my favorite turtle movie was the first movie, of
Yeah,
course,
of course.
because yeah, so much fun. It was so well done, and to see them on the big screen and come to life in the way that they did, only in a way that Jim Henson, the artistry of Jim Henson, who built the costumes and everything, could make them look and bring them to life. It was so it's there's so many pleasures in seeing them in different forms of entertainment in different areas, all of which I love since I was a child to
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to pick one that I like the most. They're all pretty cool.
Yeah, I understand. And that's interesting because uh as you said, in the first movie, it was so the new things, you see your characters on the big screen. And I really, because okay, in the first movie, they were very loyal. The turtles are very well, who were on the comics, it was the same thing on the big screen.
Yeah.
So after we had all the another adaptations that is beautiful too, but I really understand. And of your how can I say it? All the styles of comic of the turtles that were published after these first movies or the first comics, what do you like more? I don't know if my question was, if you understand, but if you didn't, I can say in another, I don't know, another way.
No, no, sure. I think you were asking which other comic series do I like of the Turtles
Yeah,
since then?
yeah.
No, that's a good question. I think that's what I thought you were saying. So you weren't very far off, and my Brazilian is not very, my Spanish is not very good either. So I appreciate you
Thank you so
from
much.
um, but so um, I guess. there's so much love in the original black and white comic series, of course, and then I love the Archie series, the Archie comics, as they adapted the cartoon show, and so they were more fun and lighter and playful. But man, the IDW comic series is so incredible to me because it takes ideas from different turtle universes. There's a little bit of turtles from the original comic series. There's some turtles from the Archie series, from the cartoon shows, from the movies, and different things, and brings all these characters together into a new place to tell turtle adventures from. So it's kind of like I call it its own universe. IDW Turtles is its own universe.
Yeah,
We bring in characters that you remember from the cartoon show, and we can make them a little different, but we still try to keep true to the original idea of it,
yeah,
make them a little different, a little more interesting. Like my favorite is bringing the neutrinos, who were kind of these hot rodding teenager characters, kind of fun loving goofy characters from the early cartoon shows. Well, we made them freedom fighters.
yeah, yeah,
Neutrino in the IDW comics, so it's fun to do that. So I would definitely say the IDW series, which is now the longest running of
yeah.
all the Turtle series, we're up to issue 132. I just finished the cover for, and then with IDW is also we expanded into the last Ronin universe. So that's my favorite comic series because it's very contemporary, very now, and it's written for the older audience. Perhaps you might have grown up on the cartoon show, but as you get older and you still like turtles, you can read comics that are written for you, for an older fan.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. And IDW was my favorite one too because it was my first one that I read. So
Oh,
I really loved it. And okay, still talking about comics, but not about turtles. Okay, I know you love Jack Kirby. I do love Jack Kirby. And
yes.
if you have to choose one work, one comic of Kirby, which one you choose to bring to, I don't know, Iceland?
It would be a comic, Commandy,
Sure.
the last boy on Earth, and I like this because for many reasons, mostly because when I discovered it, I was young. I was probably maybe 11 years old or 12 years
Okay.
old, and so and I lived in a very, very, very small town in Maine on the East Coast, but what was interesting was the very first movie we had to drive a long way to see a movie, and the very first movie I ever saw in a theater was Planet of the Apes. and
Yeah.
and so Planet of the Apes as an idea was very much the basis for Jack Kirby's idea for Commandy, where animals, after a great disaster,
Yeah.
animals ruled the planet and all that. And so, in my imagination as a child, I imagined me being Commandy, the last boy on Earth in my in my town. So I love this series very much, and I know that was kind of my inspiration for mutant animals. Was
Uh-huh.
Jack Kirby's Mutant Animals. So when the idea of the turtles evolved, I really think it's very strongly rooted in some of the mutant animals that I was inspired by Commandy for sure.
That's perfect. Kameni is it's I don't know, it's out right now in Brazil, in huge editions, and it's really beautiful. I didn't read yet, but I will soon. But my favorite one is Fourth Word, of course. I love it so much, uh, uh, because all the things, but I don't know, the Orion, it's my favorite character ever of the comic books.
Yes.
Uh, and that's really nice. I'm really anxious to read the Commandy. And okay, I have two more questions, and
Sure.
of course, because of you and Peter Laird, there's a lot of people who started making comics by themselves, being independent of a publisher. And these days, there's some artists that you see making this kind of stuff and you really like to see. There's some artists that you really enjoy the art.
Yes, what I think is very, very special because, even before um, Peter and I started doing the Turtles, there were, for a long time, if you wanted to work in comics, you could only get a job at Marvel or DC or Gold Key or some of these companies that were very, they call them mainstream, and they were comics written just for children. In fact, they had a rating system that made sure that they stayed for a very young audience. But as you started getting older and you started loving comics just as much, but the content was so much for younger people, there were people like Richard Corbin and Robert Crumb and Vaughn Bodie and a lot of these artists that started what they called underground comics, where they were comics written for adults, sometimes adults only, sometimes for mature readers, but it was more written for an older audience. And so we were kind of following in those footsteps because we kept getting rejection letters from Marvel and DC. So we printed our own, and we were lucky that they sold. And that was really something that gave other people the idea that said, well, if they can do it, then we can also self-publish and create and own our own characters and go tell stories that we can't get jobs for otherwise. So that's part of the change of our industry up here. Is now you had above ground mainstream comics with Marvel and DC. You had underground comics, and then you had right in the middle for everybody else. And I think that's where it's most exciting to me, because you have the most original ideas, the most personal ideas. You don't have an artist and a writer that's writing for a boss that's telling you can't do that. You can write it however you want to see it in your vision and your mind, and that's what makes it unique and strong and powerful. So I'm glad that kind of thing continues today in many ways. And I also love that comics aren't just printed that you find in a comic store, but you can see them online. So there's a lot of ways you can reach a much wider audience very easily digitally through comics, and build your fan base. Doesn't have to be people in your own state or people in your own country. It can be people around the world, and that's pretty fantastic, the reach that comics have, and you can do it right from your computer at home.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's beautiful to see. I really love the author comics, and that's really nice because, of course, both of you and Peter and I don't know, the Image guys has inspired a lot of people around the world. So that's really nice. And to finish, I have my one more question, and I have to ask you something. But okay, what's the question you've grown tired of hearing of them? Okay, let's start again. What's the question you've grown tired of hearing the most throughout your career?
It's, I know this, I'm not being, I can't think, it's sort of, I can't think of one. And what I mean by, and it's like, because, I'm very, very lucky to be in the situation that I am. That before you and I started talking today, I was over there drawing and actually I was finishing a script for a new comic.
Nice.
So the reason I can do that job is because I have fans like you and a lot of people that might be listening to this or buying those comics or reading that stuff. So when you as a fan or anybody as a fan asks me a question, like say, I've been asked a million times, more than a million, I think, how did Peter and I come up with the idea for the turtles, or who's my favorite turtle, or why did you do the colored bandanas? It's never it's something I never get annoyed by, because it's very sweet, and it's a very sincere question, and you're curious. If you have not read about it or heard about it and you want to know, then it's okay. I don't mind saying it again. It's like it's like when I do comic conventions and I'll do a slideshow, I do a presentation, and I'll show pictures of history of when Pete and I first did the comics and where the names came from and some of the early drawings and things. And it's, to me, it's like a stage play where I approach it that people sitting in the audience, it might be the first time they've ever heard it. They might have heard the stories many times, but they want to hear them again the way that I tell them and the way that I've said it before. It's sort of like listening to your favorite record or your favorite thing. So it's never it's never a bother.
Yeah, that's really nice. I thought that you were saying something like that, but I have pretty sure that everybody, and I would ask this, but I think okay, everybody asks this, so I won't ask. But what's your favorite turtle? Everybody asks, and I really imagine that you were saying something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Would you say something?
No, no, I just say that, but I love it. It's like because people it's probably one of the most asked question is who's my favorite turtle and why, and I like this question for two reasons. Is one is because it's true. It's like I look at the turtles as both Pete and I look at it the same way. That they're our children, and so you can't pick a favorite child. You love all your children, but when people say, if you have to choose one, which one would you choose? And I'll say, well, if I had to choose one, I would choose. Michelangelo was
Yeah,
the first turtle ever drawn. So if I had to choose one, I'd choose firstborn, just
yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't know why, but
The first son.
yeah.
Yeah.
The second reason I like when people ask this question, because then I ask you, who's your favorite turtle and why? Because it tells me a lot about you. In that, if you pick a certain turtle for a certain reason, then it talks about your personality. So who's your favorite turtle?
Donatello.
Donatello. Oh, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, okay. There's a lot of reasons, but he has the, how can I say? He has the worst arm, you know. He has just a chaco, I don't know how to say it. And he is the most badass, okay? I'm saying this. Okay, that's it. Oh, Mr. Eastman, thank you so much for coming. And I really enjoyed interview you. I really hope to interview you again someday. You come to Brazil. There is something you can say, you would like to say to your Brazilian fans who's watching right now?
Oh, sure. Just that one it's exciting now that that we're getting past um, the scariest parts of COVID. So now it's just this year we started doing conventions again. So we're actually to get back out to see fans again, and we've done a few
Yeah,
shows here in the States, and we're doing one in actually we're doing one in Brussels and one in France in the fall. But we've done shows in Argentina and
nice.
Mexico City and other places that we now are happy that we can now travel again to see fans that we wouldn't normally see around the world. So hopefully we'll get to see our Brazilian fans in person. But in the meantime, I just thank them for being so awesome as fans and being so very supportive. And I have the best job ever because
Sure.
I have the best fans ever. So
Oh,
I
that's beautiful.
I say thank you. I say thank you to you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Guys, thank you for watching, Mr. Hitman. Thank you for coming. And that's it. Uh,
Awesome.
that's
Okay.
it. I would say something, but okay. Subscribe my channel if you aren't
Cool.
yet, guys.
Oh, we have to say cowabunga before we say goodbye.
Banger, yeah, I forgot it. Oh wow, this was a moment that is only in life, you know. This
Yes.
I'm cheering right now. Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming and see you. Thank you, Mr. Hitman.